Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something pretty important, I think, a deep dive into, well, into us,
We're-
into identity.
That's right. We've pulled together some really interesting materials about family and identity in a bigger world.
And our mission today is basically to map out where that feeling of self really comes from. We're going straight to the core here. I want you, listening right now, to just pause for a second. Have you ever really stopped, maybe look in the mirror and wondered, who am I, really? Like, underneath it all, that feeling, that complex idea of you. That's what we're decoding today. We want to understand how the very first people in your life, your family, how they laid down that foundation.
Yeah, and we're trying to go beyond just, listing concepts. We want to look at the connections. These sources, they explore the definition, sure, but also how family really acts as that primary shaper.
The first influence.
Exactly. And then how those personal traits connect you out into the wider world, to culture, society. So our goal is to pull out the key insights, the so what behind it all.
Okay, let's unpack this right away then. Before we even get to influence, we need a solid definition. What is identity? That's got to be more than just personality, right? Like liking certain music or being shy.
Oh, definitely more. The sources are clear. Identity covers the qualities, the deep-seated values, and all the experiences that, make you you.
Okay.
But here's a really crucial part. It includes both how you see yourself, your internal picture, and also how others see you, the external view. It's where those two things meet, or sometimes where they clash.
That sounds potentially complicated.
Yeah.
How often do those two views conflict? The inside versus the outside, and which one tends to, win out?
Yeah.
Because if I think I'm a great artist, but everyone else just sees a quiet kid, that's tough.
Well, that tension, that dissonance you mentioned, that's actually where identity often grows and changes. The materials point out that the core pieces, your language, culture, beliefs, even your choices, they're constantly being negotiated. Yeah. Which brings up a really important question these sources raise. Is identity fixed, like set in stone? Or does it change?
I suspect it changes.
Almost certainly. The sources lean heavily into the idea that identity is rarely fixed. It shifts. You need to think about that changing nature of self. Who you are today is shaped by yesterday's choices, and tomorrow's choices will shape you further. It's a continuous process, always adapting, redefining.
So it's less like a statue and more like a garden. Something living that changes with the seasons and how you tend it.
That's a fantastic analogy, a living landscape. And the family, they're the first gardeners.
That leads us perfectly because the next big idea in the material is calling the family the first teacher. I find that really powerful. It suggests that before school, before friends, before anything else, the basic rules of how the world works are taught right there at home.
Exactly.
So what are those core things families provide? What earns them that title?
First teacher really highlights how fundamental that role is. The sources break it down into three core foundations, things you absolutely need to function. First, and maybe most obviously, is early language. Communication skills. It's how we even start to think complex thoughts.
Right. Can't think complexly if you can't talk about it.
Got it. Then the next two get a bit deeper. Second, families teach social rules and behaviors. How to share, how to wait your turn, how to interact with others. Basic social scripts. Without those, fitting into society is, well, it's really hard.
Almost impossible.
Almost. And third, and this one is maybe the most profound, families give you your first ideas about right and wrong, your initial moral compass.
Wow.
And this isn't just don't snatch cookies, it's the framework for how you see fairness, how you handle conflict later in life, your view on big societal issues even decades later. It's the lens you look through.
That foundation sounds incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But, okay, things change, especially when you hit the teenage years. The materials bring up that classic dilemma, and we should probably lean into it. When you're a teenager, who has more sway, family or friends? Because, for a lot of listeners maybe in that age group, friends feel like everything.
Oh, absolutely. That peer influence feels incredibly strong, doesn't it? Especially for things like, clothes, music, social media, how you act right now.
Totally.
So the argument for friends is strong. They offer validation outside the family, which can feel like freedom, and they introduce you to what's current, what's relevant in your world now.
Friends teach you the immediate rules. Maybe the street smarts version.
You could put it that way, yeah. The sources handle this tension quite elegantly, actually. They differentiate between the foundation and the application.
Okay.
Family builds the bedrock, that moral code. maybe your work ethic, the language you think in. That stuff rarely changes at its core. But as you get older, friends heavily influence the application of that identity. How you choose to express yourself using those tools you got from your family. So, friends might influence the kind of music you like, but your family probably instilled the underlying value system that makes you identify with why one group's message resonates with you more than another's. See the difference?
Yeah, foundation versus decoration almost. Or foundation versus how you build on top of it.
Exactly, how you build on top. Now, let's shift from those basic rules to how families pass on more abstract things like values and traditions and make them real. What's really interesting here is how specific this teaching often is.
Specificity is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially for things we remember and live by.
It really is. Families actively shape our view of the world by teaching concrete values. Things like empathy, being kind, showing respect, especially often for elders, developing a work ethic, taking responsibility. These aren't things we're born with, they're taught.
Modeled, usually.
Often modeled, yes. And beyond those ethical lessons, families pass down traditions and celebrations. Think about holidays, birthdays, maybe specific family rituals.
The stories.
The stories, exactly. These aren't just fun parties, they're like markers in time. They connect you back through generations, anchoring your identity in something bigger than just your own life.
That idea of traditions giving meaning, that really resonates. It makes the identity feel personal, not just theoretical. The materials give a great example of this. The story of Ali.
Ah, yes, Allah.
His family didn't just say, be good. They specifically valued generosity.
Yeah.
And you could see it directly in who he became. His identity traits were things like actively helping people,
Yeah.
always welcoming guests, respecting elders.
That's the perfect illustration of the chain. The value leads to the action. Repeated action becomes the reputation, which is a core part of identity. It goes from inside belief to outside reality. So let's make this practical for you listening. Think for a moment. What's one core value your family really emphasized? Maybe it was honesty, maybe perseverance, maybe being curious, or even just being on time.
Punctuality is a core value.
Can be. How has that specific value, maybe something seemingly small, become part of your identity throughout your life? It's a way to see your own history shaping who you are right now.
That kind of reflection really shows how deep these early lessons go. But okay, family shapes more than just our internal values, right? It's also our first window onto the whole external world, onto culture. How does that work? What cultural stuff do we get from family?
Oh, massively. Family is the primary channel for culture. They essentially hand you your heritage. They influence your daily routines, your lifestyle, what time you eat, rules about homework or chores, what foods show up on the table.
The food. Always a big one.
Huge. Cultural foods, specific traditions around meals or holidays. And crucially, they pass on the music, the family stories, the shared memories, maybe even historical narratives of where the family came from. These things give your identity its specific flavor.
Like a secret family recipe added to who you are.
Exactly. Whether it's that recipe only your grandma knows, or a story about how your family got through a tough time generations ago.
And surely these things affect how you connect with the world outside. If your family always debated things loudly at dinner, that probably shapes how you interact in groups later on.
Absolutely. The way we connect to our community, our sense of belonging, our heritage, it's largely learned through the family model. And if we zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, the sources really encourage thinking about diversity here. Well, think about all the different lessons families teach. Some might prioritize quiet respect. Others value loud debate. Some focus on individuality, others on community obligation. When you take all these varied personal identities, shaped by different families, how does that mix contribute to our larger community or even our country?
It makes sense that if everyone brings something slightly different, learn from their unique family culture, then the whole society becomes richer, more complex, more resilient.
Exactly, that tapestry idea. The diversity of family lessons, the different values and cultural practices arguably strengthens the whole society. It brings different viewpoints, different ways of solving problems to the table.
That's a really positive way to look at it. Powerful thought. Okay, let's do a quick recap of this deep dive. We defined identity as way more than just personality. It's multifaceted, covering values, experiences, how you see yourself, how others see you.
Right, internal and external.
We established the family as that first teacher, giving us not just language, but those crucial social rules and our very first moral compass.
The foundational stuff.
And we saw how specific family values, like generosity in Ollie's case, translate into real actions and cultural connections that shape both the person and their community.
And just to crystallize those key takeaways, remember, identity isn't static. It's dynamic. It's this weave of values and culture that keeps evolving. Families shape both what you believe and how you live those beliefs. And while family gives you that starting point, your identity is constantly being shaped by both your home life and the wider world around you.
Fantastic synthesis. Navigating that complexity was great. So, to wrap up our deep dive today, we want to leave you, our listener, with something active to think about, a final thought exercise from the source material.
Okay.
Reflect on one really important lesson your family taught you. Could be anything. Perseverance, sharing, curiosity, respect, whatever. Got one?
Pauses. Okay, I think I have mine.
Good. Now, try to think of a single object, a symbol, that represents that lesson for you. Maybe it's a sturdy pair of boots for perseverance.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a shared bowl for community. Maybe it's an open book for curiosity. Or perhaps it's a specific handshake that meant respect in your family. What symbol captures your lesson?
That's a great closing reflection. Take a moment with that. Your own symbols, your own connections, they help all of us understand identity from so many different angles. And that kind of self-reflection, understanding your own story, that's probably the most valuable knowledge there is.